Hello, 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 hello. May the Lord bless you this day and this week. And here we are again. My name is Perla Negroni, and we are continuing with the Bible study that we have been going through, named The Bait of Satan. The Bait of Satan. And we know that is the offense. The enemy wants us to be offended by anything and everything with one another, because he knows that that will bring about discord and all kind of divisions. And so what we're trying is to discuss with you a subject that was put in the heart of John Bevere in reference to the bait of Satan, which is the offense. And we want to discuss um, this subject to help us open our eyes, all of us, open our eyes and see that as long as we don't allow the enemy to bring offenses within one another, that we can talk things out, that we can discuss situations and discrepancies or disagreements, we have to do this in love. And as long as we do this, we can work united as a nation, as a church, as a family, as a couple. And so the enemy knows that, as the scripture said, a nation that is divided cannot stand. And that applies to families, that applies to marriage, that applies to entities. There's absolutely nothing that can stand if there's division, because one of the best weapons will be to destroy any entity from within. And so we don't see how the enemy works and how even people works, because it's also used as a strategy of war. So we have been discussing these past weeks, we have been discussing chapter 4, and we are talking about how is it that when Saul was the king of Israel, he was disobedient to God, and God decided, you know what, if you're not gonna listen, we cannot have this going. And God decided to talk to Samuel, and he went and he anointed David as the king. And with time, Saul and David became like father and son, because he ended up marrying, killing the giant Goliath, and then marrying King Saul's daughter. But interestingly, after many the services and help that King Saul received from David, including the fact that he was tormented by spirits, and David will play the harp for him, and the spirit, that tormented him will leave him alone. He decided that David was his enemy in a moment of jealousy, and he was after him, and he was trying to kill him, and David had to be hiding and trying to escape from Saul day in and day out. And he had few opportunities to kill King Saul, and his friends and his men will say, you know what, God is putting him on your hand. Don't waste this opportunity, because that's how the enemy is. And so, but he was like, no, God forbid I will touch the anointed man of God. Because David was a guy that he was a warrior, okay? He didn't have any problem going into war and taking care of business. But he was not a mean-spirit person. And he did fear the Lord, and he wanted the best for his country, and he did not want to hurt the king just because the king was after him. What a wonderful example. If we could possibly be like that we know somebody's out there to kill us. Let's not say about it's talking about me or is being mean to me. No. Killed us. That the person we know want us dead. and we don't want to hurt the person. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want to damage their reputation that is already damaged by themselves. We don't, because we have utmost respect for that particular person. No, that doesn't happen nowadays, or at least rarely happen, because now the enemy has convinced all of us in one way or another that if someone is after you like that, then the devil is using him, and so somehow you and I go against the devil, then it's okay to go against the person. And it's not God's like. We will always go against the devil and what he represents, but we will not go against people, against the person. If the person have all kind of ideas that are against the scripture, go against the ideas, go against but not the person, because every person could have the opportunity to be redeemed. If the person is a serial killer, if the person is a rapist, if the person, we can make that person, according to the law, to pay consequences for their actions, which is the right thing to do, but still work our ways into not going after the person. We can point out what the person is doing wrong. We can, tell what is happening correctly, because David did. I mean, his man knew. It was not secret. And not every time that things happened to David, they were all there to see it. But it's a total different thing to discuss the wrongdoings a person is doing to you or to me that are facts, versus to from that then conclude, well, this person is this and that and that and that and that, and this person deserves this and this and this and this and that, other than the consequences of their actions, which so deserve them, and the Lord was going to take care of them. Nowadays, we probably have the Lord handle it, the law handle it, but the key is, don't allow offenses from these situations to the point that your heart and my heart is damaged. And so today we continue with chapter 4. And so we were discussing how is it that David was feeling kind of fatherless, in the sense that Saul has become his father. And now look what he's doing to him. So, of course, in all this that David was going through, it was going to be easier for him to just finish it, because just take care of Saul, and David could rest assured that nothing was going to happen to him, and he will just go, and the people of Israel didn't have to suffer anymore with this type of king, and David could just go and claim his throne because he was already anointed to be the king. And so all kind of excuses that David could have used, but he did not. And so the nation really was like a flock that didn't have a shepherd. That's really how the nation of Israel was going through at the moment. David knew that it was like a wolf was robbing them, and they were not able to function as they were supposed to be, the nation anointed or selected by God or chosen by God. Now this person was totally focused on his own desires, which was King Saul. And David could use that as an excuse and defend himself. Hello, this King Saul is going after him. And so his men were telling him he's doing you wrong, and most likely if you're having all these opportunities because God is allowing them, so get your revenge. But that was the key. Anything that we say or do, we better, because I cannot think of another word, we better check and make sure that there's not even a small amount of doubt that the reason behind it is revenge, that the reason behind it is we're trying to get back to the person, because that is totally different than calling somebody out on their sin for the sake of saving the person and allowing them to open their eyes. Because okay, people keep using that do not judge. The Bible said do not judge, because people don't study the Bible, they read it. And when they read it, they don't take consideration that the Bible was not written in the order that was organized for us. They don't take in consideration that the Bible has been translated to English, Spanish, like in my case, and other languages, but have not been originally written in those languages. Therefore, and the translation things sometimes get a little bit confused, because we have probably a word or two for something, while they have 15 words for that particular subject that are used depending on how or who you're talking to, and so on and so forth. So because of that, we find a lot of discrepancies, and one of them is with that particular verse, do not judge. And I always remind people, well, I don't know, but every time that I read it, clearly said, not to judge if we don't want to be judged. So as far as I'm concerned, if I'm okay to being judged, I can judge. And so what I need to do is to live a life like Paul that can actually say, please imitate me as I imitate Christ. That is the problem, that we cannot say that. We live lives in which we cannot afford to tell people, hey, you can imitate me because I am imitating Christ. Therefore, I'm not going to judge, because then that person can turn around and judge me, and I am not standing in the best ground right now. And I'm not talking about perfection, because nobody's perfect but God. However, I'm talking about excellence of service, giving your best, me giving my best. And even if in our best we have faults, which we do, that at least we know we're not walking and living on sin. See the difference? It's not the same in sin. It's not the same to say my life unconsciously and purposely sinning versus I let my guard down every now and then and I sin, either be with my mouth, with my thoughts, or whatever, but immediately I recap, I take myself, put myself together, repent, and move forward. See the difference? The person that is living purposely and consciously in sin, they choose it, they know, and they could care less because they just like that sinful behavior. And so, of course, they don't want nobody to point at them that, but that's a total different story. And so David was not a perfect person, and he was not about to kill Saul just because Saul was after him. He knew he had also his faults, because we know David later on, and during that time he made a few mistakes here and there, and we see it later, more big mistakes. However, he was not about living in sin. David was not like that. His life was not about I want to, versus Saul, like he was going after David for no reason. He knew David was innocent, and he still went after. It was totally out of revenge, out of jealousy. So when this happened, you can see definitely God is not going to be blessing this type of behavior or mentality. So David didn't want to fall in the same behavior or mentality that King Saul was already working on. So he could even use the fact that he's a mad king, he's crazy, I even have to play the harp so he can feel better. No, that was not what David wanted to do. So David made the decision that even when he knew that Saul's life was about destroying him, he was not gonna go against him that way. Um, he was proving how when in your heart there's my heart there is some sort of purity, we are going to react differently to same circumstances than other people. Okay, how can you, somebody will say, simply because my heart is not tainted that way. And the offense is one of the worst um, damages that we could have in our hearts. So he was ready, David was ready to just spare Saul, you know. And so he have a second chance to kill David. He have a first time, a second chance. I mean, he will not touch him. He didn't want to. He said he's the anointed of God. I'm not touching him. So he decided that he was going to leave him in the hands of God to be his judge. And how many people today can actually claim to have David's heart? Not that many. But the thing is that we are not using any more swords. Yes, we have guns and we have, but people, Christians, people in general, but what hurts me, what really gets me is Christians or so-called Christians, they are not using physical weapons, they're using this one. This is what they're using nowadays. And you know, they kill with their words. The Bible said in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And this is what we have. People using their tongues, they're using this one, okay? They take the tongue and they destroy whoever they can, and they don't think twice. And so you don't see it, but when you and I realize this, our lives are transformed because we start noticing, wait a minute, wait just 1 minute. Churches, families, marriages divided, shatters, you know, split, love die. We are crushing one another and relationships and organizations and the nation. Do you know what? Because sometimes words, and this is what another reason why media and politicians and media and journalists gets me, because they don't, for rating or for popularity or for whatever, they don't care what they say. If they're inciting hatred, if they are lying, they do not care. So they are they are murderers. They will not think twice to point at serial killers or somebody that raped a child or something. But they are day in and day out killing with their mouth the nation, the values, one another, and they're fine with it. You know, I'm only reporting. I'm a reporter and a journalist. This is what I do. No, because you can state the facts and sit there and share facts without adding opinion, without and facts that you were able to verify. I mean, not is technically truth, which is what we get nowadays in the news. And people don't know this and they don't care. But we get is technically truth, is technically, you know, the right thing so to say, so you say it. Technicalities are killing us because we are killing other human beings and other people, entities. You know, we are killing. You know what we're doing? We are even killing the a person's character, and we don't care. Oh no, they did that to themselves. First of all, let's begin with the fact that nobody's perfect and you and me can make a mistake at any given point and, retract from it. And that's not who we are. But they don't waste any time to try to seek negative things that they can use to present a person as that person is not. And anyway, it's terrible. Um, the the son did something, now they wanna taint the father or the mother for what the son did or the daughter did. The parents didn't do it. The kids did. So you want to say something, say it about them and say what they did, and because the parents, they're nothing but the parents, but or vice versa. But this is a total different subject. The point being that that's what the enemy wants. So we can create offenses, and next thing we know, we are destroying friends, family, leaders, everybody. We take aim with words sharpened by bitterness and anger and information that sometimes is not even factual or accurate. The motives behind are impure, and that's a big one, brothers and sisters, and anybody that is watching this. If your motives deep inside in your brain or heart are impure, are not good, you just want to hurt the person or damage the person or get back to the person, whatever the case may be, if that's the way we are acting, automatically what we're saying or doing is wrong. Proverbs 6:16-19 says that sowing discord or separation among brethren is an abomination to the Lord. And so when we repeat something with the intention of separating or damaging relationships or reputations, even when it's truth, because let me clarify that stating the facts and talking something that is truth is necessary, it is what it is. But when the intention, the motive behind it is to damage and to hurt the person, it's wrong. Even that is true is wrong. It's an affront to God, and God sees it as an abomination. So, we got to be careful. We got to be careful. There have been people that they are convinced that God is using them to expose the sins of their leaders, either be the president of the nation, either be the leader of an organization, the leader of the church, or somebody. The problem again, the problem is, what is the intention? I mean, were you in extremely profound? I mean, were you like aching? Was I aching while I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, taint somebody's character. And even if it's true, Lord, I really don't. Were you feeling like that? Or were you like, yes, about time that somebody can stop this? Because see the difference, where we are having the desire to destroy or damage someone, there is absolutely nothing of God in it. And so what this happened, and the writer John Bevere, at one point specifically, he was convinced. He was in ministry for 7 years, and he helped and pastored the youth, and the Lord was speaking to them to go in ministry in a different area. And so when he was the youth pastor, there was a man that he didn't like him. He didn't like John Bevere. He didn't like his message. He didn't like what he was preaching about. Normally, that wouldn't bother him, but this man was in a position of authority over him. And so he was convinced that the Lord told him to bring a strong word about being pure and be bold to the young people, and he did. And so happened that the son of this man was in the group, and so conviction touched his heart, and he came crying to his youth pastor, Brother Bibir, and his wife. And he was upset. He felt that he have a lifestyle that was not the correct one. And so he came crying, and they were talking, and then this particular incident and other conflicts, personality conflicts, that kind of show that his father, the young fellow father, got to the point that he felt kind of exposed, and his son and all that, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna get rid of you. He was an authority over Bebir, so John, so he was like, I'm getting rid of you. And so he went to the head pastor, and he started like getting him angry against John with false accusations. Were not even true, okay? This was like a soul thing. And so he will turn around and then will come to John and will tell him things about how the senior pastor was against John, and try to pretend that he was like, but I'm with you, I got your back, don't worry. So there's starting being some memos, staff memos, going back and forth. They did not have John's name in it, but they kind of point in a way that you knew he was in it in a different way. And so he would be smiling in John's face, but he didn't have good intentions for John. He wanted to destroy him. So members of the youth group heard, and they actually heard that he was fired. And the one that was spreading that around was this gentleman's son. He didn't do it maliciously, okay? He heard it, so he was just saying it. He heard it at home from his father, so he was saying it. So at one point, John is angry, he's confused, and he goes to this guy, and he's admit that yes, he said it, and he's like, well, I was just repeating what the senior pastor is considering. I mean, he's thinking about it. And so months passed, and there was like nothing alleviating the situation. And John have what is the word? He was feeling like all contact between him and senior pastor was destroyed. Like this guy he managed to cut that, to create that animosity, to bring about offense. And so not only for John, but also for all the pastors that were not on his favor. And so John felt that his family was under constant pressure. They never knew whether they will remain at the church or be put out. They bought a house. His wife was pregnant. They didn't have any other place to go. They didn't want to send his resumes nowhere because they didn't know where, what they were supposed to do. I mean, they were convinced, they believed that God brought them to that church. And so they didn't have a plan B. and they just going through this. His wife was very nervous, pregnant and nervous. And she kept, like, honey, they're going to fire you. Everyone is telling me that they are. And John kept answering, they didn't hire me. They cannot fire me without God approving it, because I know God is the one that put me here. But his wife felt that he was just in denial, okay? And she was like, please, 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 it's better if you quit and we just send our resume somewhere else. So finally, they were news. The decision to fire him was already made, and the senior pastor announced it to the church, and that changes were coming for the youth group. And still, they have not talked about the conflict that was happening with that leader that was put over John. And he was scheduled to meet with him and with that man the next day. And God touched John's heart and said, do not defend yourself. It was like, what? Do not defend yourself. So when they went to the meeting the next day, he was surprised that the pastor was alone in the office. And he looked at John and said, John, God brought you to this church, and I am not going to let you go. And he was like, okay, that's a relief. God is protecting me, at least for this moment. And then the senior pastor said, why is this man after you? I want you to make it right between you and him. And so after the meeting, John received some written evidence of the decision that the leader made regarding the area of responsibility. Well, so happened that when he did that, it exposed his true motives. Like, if he was ready to take the senior pastor. So that day, he was pacing the floor. He was ready to take it to the senior pastor. Like, okay, I have here the evidence. All I need to do, John is saying, all I need to do is to take this evidence to the senior pastor. But he was like pacing, and he's like praying, and like for 45 minutes, he's like trying to get over that feeling that he was having at the moment that was quite uncomfortable. And he kept praying to God and saying, he has been dishonest, he has been wicked, he must be exposed. He just want to destroy the ministry. I mean, if he's doing this not only to me but to other people, I need to tell him. I need to tell the senior pastor. And somehow he was looking for ways to justify telling on this man. And he was like, everything that I'm gonna report is documented, is fact. They're facts. It's not emotional. Somebody needs to stop him. He's wicked. He is infiltrating in the church, and he's just damaging right and left. And so he's like, God, do you want me to do this or not? Give me some sort of sign. So he said that when he was talking to the Lord, he's having this feeling, okay, that God doesn't want him to do that. So he's like, you don't want me to expose him? You don't want me, do you? And then he said that he felt this peace that flooded his heart, and he was like certain somehow that that's not the way that God wanted him to go. And so he just got rid of the evidence. And he said that later, when he looked at that, he realized that what he really wanted to avenge himself. That's what he really wanted. He was not really protecting anyone in the ministry. But it takes a lot of integrity to look at, be in a situation like this and admit the real reason for me to be doing this is not to protect nobody but myself. And nothing wrong with protecting ourselves under abuse, but in moments like this where our actions can bring about a reaction that is a chain that who knows where it's going to go, including the fact that the reason behind it, the motives behind are not the right ones. We need to think about that, because that could be tainting our hearts and we don't realize it. And so he tried to convince himself that there was not unselfishness in what he was doing, but there was. All the information was accurate, but the motives were impure. Okay, and so long story short, time passed. They were praying. He got a touch from the Lord one day to humble himself, and he was like, "No, he have to come to me. He's the one that caused the problems. I'm not gonna go to him." But after he was praying more and more, the Lord insisted. He decided, I know God is not gonna leave me alone, so I know this is him. So he called the guy from his office. He actually decided to deal with this differently, and he have to ask for forgiveness. And he didn't want to do it, but it's what the Lord told him to do. It was the other guy attacking him, but the Lord said, tell him, you're being critical and judgmental. And he did. And they talked for about an hour, and after that, everything stopped. All the attacks stopped. He did have problems with other people, and those problems continue, the guy, but John and him were like, no more. 6 months later, it took 6 months, he was ministering out in a different place, and he find out that all the wrong things that this man have done were brought to the senior pastor, and John have absolutely nothing to do with it. And so it was in other areas of the ministry that he also have done wrong, and that was brought to the senior pastor. And apparently he was doing even worse, much worse in these other areas, and the guy ended up being fired. But it took John listening to the voice of the Lord so his heart wouldn't be tainted, so he wouldn't be damaged. So sometimes the Lord is not safeguarding the other person. It's you and me, and we don't like it because we're like, come on, you see what he's doing to me? You see what she's doing to me? This is only fair. But the Lord is saying no, because what you don't realize is that if you do this, you damage yourself. And I'm going to stop here because of the time, but I'm going to leave you with this. When I was in, this was a few years ago. I don't remember how long. The thing is that I remember that my niece was really into watching a show called Once Upon a Time. And in this show, what they were doing was bringing all the stories, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Rumpelstiltskin, and they put them together into like linking, like one will explain the other, and they were all related one way or another, is what they did in this show. But there was something that caught my attention at one point, and it was that if a person that was good will act in pure motives or in revenge towards something, their hearts will develop, like they will have this light But then if the person did that, the heart will develop like a very tiny black spot in it. It was like you're good, you're still good, and your heart is still good, and still, you know, it's shining this beautiful light. But because you allow these negative feelings or whatever in it, now you have that spot, and that will continue like to spread, and with time the person will, their heart will become damaged. It was like the evil or darkness or whatever will take over. It was a weird way to present it, but it makes a lot of sense. And this is what the Lord is trying to do with us. When I saw that, I kind of thought, oh, wow, this is it. The Lord was doing with John, and sometimes he's doing with you and me, when he don't let us take revenge on someone, when he don't let us to expose how bad a person is or how terrible. The Lord is saying, let me handle it. It might take 6 months, it might take 6 years, but if you wait and you pray for this person and you take the right attitude, God will be the one handling this person. And whatever this person have done is going to be exposed. Who they really are is going to be exposed. You don't need to be tainted. You don't need to damage yourself with revenge or impure motives. Let's expose sin for the sake of restoring and saving someone and helping someone, but not for the sake of destroying or damaging someone, because that is going to damage us as well. And offenses are the bait of Satan, and he will try to hurt you even in the moments that you and I will be convinced that what we're doing is the right thing. But is it? That's the question. So we're going to stop there today. We're still in chapter 4. Hopefully next class or next video, we will finish chapter 4. But I'm taking my time. I like taking my time. And I know some people like to just go, and let's move. But that's not how I am. I prefer to take my time and we can discuss what is really taking place, and it can get to us and stay with us. And remember this, if you're listening to me, this might not be for you, but it might be for your brother, your sister, your uncle, your niece, your neighbor. You never know. Your spouse, your child. And so never, never, never dismiss the word of God from your life thinking, oh, well, very nice, but it wasn't for me. Because you and I, we have to be prophets of God. We need to tell the word. We need to share the gospel. And sometimes these teachings are necessary for someone that I cannot reach because I don't know the person doesn't know me, doesn't know, watch my videos, but you can. And so take whatever is for you, and whatever is not for you, ask the Lord to guide you. Share the video, and you will be surprised how is somebody out there that is connected to you that needs to hear this. The offense is the bait of Satan, and he just wants us to be offended with one another, so we will be after one another with whatever excuse except to restore one another. And so let's not play his game. I pray that the Lord help you to see that defending the honor or defending yourself or protecting yourself or your children, all that is necessary, and it's okay. That what we are not to allow is to be offended in a way that we want to destroy or damage somebody, because what we are to do is to damage and destroy sin and the enemy and his work, but not the people. God bless you. And I'm really, really glad that you were with me today. And I invite you to be with us next class. Have a wonderful week.